Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. My name is Logan Fulmer, and today we have the offseason breakdown of one of the most unique teams in the National Football League, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. Last season, the Ravens finished second in the AFC North and lost in the second round of playoffs to the Buffalo Bills. This season, the Ravens are hoping to build off their playoff success and make a run for the Lombardi Trophy. Let's take a look at the moves they made that they think will help them get there.
This Ravens offense is by far one of the most polarizing units in the entire league. Some people think they're dominant, while a lot of people like to argue they're too one-dimensional. You could tell that their goal this offseason was to kind of create a more well-balanced attack offensively, and while I think they did just that, we need to look at some of the offensive numbers they provided us last year. As a team, they had the least amount of passing yards with 2,919, and their quarterbacks also had the 7th lowest completion percentage. We all know that the Ravens passing attack has struggled in recent years, and it kind of helps you understand why some people think this offense is too one-dimensional. But when you look at some of the rushing stats, you can tell why some people think this offense is so potent and so dominant. They had the most rushing yards with 3,071, nearly 400 more than the team behind them. They also had the highest yards per carry in the league, and they had the most runs of 20-plus yards with 31. That was good for 10 more than the team behind them. They also led the league in rushes that went for 40-plus yards with 5. If you break this offense up into two, you can kind of tell that one side, the rushing side, is dominant, explosive, and high-powered. And then you look at their passing attack, and you can kind of tell where they struggle. And I think that the additions and the moves they made this offseason will, in fact, balance this offense out, and it'll still keep that explosiveness on the ground. One of the main reasons why I believe this Baltimore Ravens offense is going to see more production from the receivers this year is because with the 27th pick in the first round, they drafted Rashad Bateman from Minnesota University. I think Rashad Bateman is a perfect fit for this offense. He can do it all. He can get open. He can make contested catches. He's just a simple do-it-all receiver that I think will fit perfectly with what Lamar Jackson needs. I think also having another weapon on the outside will open things up for everybody on the team. It'll open things up for Hollywood Brown more. It'll open things up for Mark Andrews underneath. And it'll just make running the ball easier. We know how dominant this offense can be when they're running the ball successfully. But outside of Rashad Bateman, offensively, this team also added Sammy Watkins via free agency, and they added Tylan Wallace in the 4th round, who is one of my favorite prospects in the whole draft. I think the mix of Tylan Wallace and Rashad Bateman is not only going to be great for this Ravens offense for this year, but for future years as well. I think those two alone, paired with Hollywood Brown, creates a great unit. Creates a great wide receiver core. You have one guy who can simply do it all in Rashad Bateman. You have a super speedy deep threat in Hollywood Brown, and you have a dominant jump ball receiver in Tylan Wallace. I think adding this group of receivers this offseason is just going to do wonders for this offense, and I'm excited to see how much more balanced and how much scarier this offense is now that they have some legit threats in the receiving core. This Ravens defense is known for being one of the most well-rounded, dominant groups in the entire NFL. In my opinion, this group is headlined by defensive back Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey is simply a do-it-all corner. He might not be the best in the league, he might not be the most physically dominant in the league, but he's always going to get the job done. And he's known for his ability to take the ball away, specifically on his ability to force fumbles. And the stats would back that up. The Ravens forced 25 fumbles this last season, and that is by far the most in the entire league. Some other important defensive stats for them were that they allowed the 6th least amount of passing yards and the 8th least amount of rushing yards. That goes to show how well-rounded of a unit this is. If there is one area where you could argue that this team needed to improve on, it's to get to the quarterback and to generate some more pressure. This secondary has been so dominant for a bunch of years now, but they only generated 39 sacks last year. That's not a small number by any means, but it's about middle of the pack when you compare it to the rest of the league. And I think their goal for this offseason was to keep that secondary unit intact, but to add some more young talent on the defensive front. One of the most important pieces on this Ravens defense is going to be rookie defensive end Odafe Owe, formerly known as Jason Owe from Penn State. He'll be number 28 in a lot of these clips you see on the screen. But the reason he's going to be one of the most important pieces, aside from his skill, is going to be because of how the Ravens got him. And arguably the team's biggest move this offseason, they traded Orlando Brown Jr. to the Chiefs in exchange with a lot of draft capital that, led them to flop some picks and get some picks. But at the end of the day, it led the Ravens to have the 31st pick of the first round, where they selected Owe to add some more young talent to their defensive front. Now, Owe is an exceptional athlete. He ran a 4.39 40, which is one of the fastest in the entire draft, regardless of position. But the fact that he ran that fast and is a defensive player, much less a defensive end, it just makes his upside that much higher. He's probably gonna be a little bit more of a project for this Ravens team, but if he can put it all together, it can really take this already good defense to a great one. We talked earlier about how great the secondary has been and how they want to improve their pass rush. But imagine adding one of the fastest prospects in the draft who is a great pass rusher. That could be a pick. This could be a pick that we look back on in a few years and we just kind of wonder how he lasted as long as he did. But it's a risky pick. There's no denying that. But the upside is there for the Ravens, and when you can develop talent like they can, it's highly worth taking that risk, in my opinion. But outside of Owe, they also decided to add a lot of people on defense throughout the draft. They added cornerback Brandon Stevens in the 3rd round for SMU. They added Ohio State's safety / corner Sean Wade in round 5, and they added Dalian Hayes in round 5. So yes, this defense is good, but they invested a lot of young talent in this defense to not only help them this year, but to make sure that this defense is good for years to come. We all know that the Baltimore Ravens defense is again going to be dominant. We fully expect them to have another great year, as they do every year. The key to this team is going to be the offense, specifically Lamar Jackson and this new look receiving core. They're going to be asking a lot of newcomers, Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins, and Tylan Wallace, along with returning players like Marquise Brown. If this receiving core can continue to mesh and to continue to improve on their performance last year, this Ravens team is going to be extremely dangerous. They wanted to become more well-rounded in the offseason, and I think they did just that. I think this team is looking at an easy 10-win season this year at the least. I think they are ultra-talented, and if this team can stay healthy, in my opinion, it is going to be a 2-team race in the AFC North between them and the Cleveland Browns. And that is going to be one of my favorite divisions to keep an eye on this year. There's a lot of good teams, and it's always tough competition. That wraps up the Baltimore Ravens offseason breakdown and gives you our thoughts on what they can accomplish in this upcoming season. As always, thank you for tuning in here at TWSN YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below what you're expecting from the Baltimore Ravens this year. And make sure to be on the lookout for your favorite team's offseason breakdown coming soon.